Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Bernadette Pillar Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Gonzalez. So glad that you're with us, of course, alongside Bernadette Pillar and Chad Thomas from Q Home Loans. Good afternoon, guys. How's it going?
Great. How are
Hi
you
there.
doing?
Yeah, good to see both of you. It's been a little while since we've done our first podcast, so really excited to be back in the mix here in 2023. And I can certainly say that Chad and I are a little bit jealous, and you're in Hawaii right now. How are things going in Hawaii?
Very good. Very good. Yes. As everyone knows, I do real estate, Hawaii, Washington, and Idaho, and I'm doing my stint in Hawaii right now. And so I know you guys got a bunch of snow yesterday. I feel bad about that, but
Yeah, sure.
if it makes you feel better, we are not having the prettiest weather today. We had a huge downpour yesterday, and it's supposed to rain all week. But anyway,
All right.
it's doing great here. So,
Well, regardless of the weather, we're really happy to see you. And well, let's get right into it. You know, we've talked a lot about the market coming out of 2022 with the increased interest rates, but we're seeing some positive news. Bernadette, talk about that on your side first.
well, we're seeing positive news for the activity again. As everyone may be aware, we were seeing a really slow market from about September, October, in through the holidays. The market has just been hot in the last, since since the beginning of the year, but especially in my office in the last 10 days. It's just been really, really busy. In a good way, never too busy though to take on new clients and help them. But it has been really busy. Multiple offers. We're seeing that again. We're still seeing where buyers have an opportunity to get a contingency considered, like a sale of home contingency or closing costs. But as Chad is going to probably talk about, though, that is kind of waning again. So we need to move quickly, and we need to bring our best game, both on the seller's side and the buyer's side. Sellers need to be positioned correctly in the market, meaning by price and presentation. They need to be positioned correctly, and buyers need to be ready to show that they really want the house, that they are working towards. So that's what we are seeing. I have just a couple examples that I've been dealing with just the last couple of days. Made an offer with a buyer yesterday, for instance. Sad ending. We did not win per se that bid, air quotes. We lost. There were 11 offers. This was a property at around $300,000. That is probably close to the first-time home buyer price point right now. So she lost out, sadly enough, but I do want to let everybody know that is going on out there. The listing agent told us that at the end, several offers came in that were stronger in price. We did go over the list price of $265,000. We went up to $285,000 and we lost. No, excuse me, we went up to $290,000 and we lost. So one can only guess what the actual offers were coming in at. We were told that I think someone even waived their inspection, something I don't ever advise. So that's an example. Another example is with a seller/buyer. My poor buyer, who has been in contract for about 3 weeks, we had our inspection, got through that, and we have her property on the market for sale to get it closed. She was bumped. Another buyer who did not have a for sale contingency bumped her, and we only had until last Friday night to get it sold. And we couldn't accomplish that. It is a manufactured home on leased land, which made that a little bit more difficult. But my poor buyer did lose out. She was bumped. So that's happening again. Good for sellers. And again, back to bad for buyers. We don't want the feds to get a hold of that information, though. So anyway, I think that I'd like to turn things over to Chad so he can talk about what he's seeing, because he works with not just one realtor, he works with several realtors. And so that he can either attest or add to what I've had to say. Chad, did I leave anything out before I head over to you?
No, but I'm glad you said don't tell the Fed, because the Federal Reserve does not want to hear that people are waiving
Yeah,
inspections. And that really is one of the things that they've cited for having such a savagely unhealthy real estate market, is that people are waiving inspections, obviously offering way over list price, things like that. So it was the waiving of inspections that really got them feeling like they needed to destroy demand for housing by increasing interest rates, which would bring us back into more of an even keel. Well, they've done that. They've raised rates a ton since last year. Obviously, rates have more than doubled since January of last year. The good news is they're almost done. They're going to raise by a quarter here next week. And then we've got 2 more quarter point moves over the next 12 weeks. That's what we're anticipating. They may go a little, they may not go 2 more quarter point moves, but I think everybody believes they will. The inflation rate has calmed dramatically. It doesn't feel like that when you walk through the grocery store. By the inflation rate going down, that doesn't mean that prices go down. We're going to continue paying these high prices going forward. But what has happened is the rate of increase of prices going up has slowed, and the prices are now going up less than 2% for the last 6 months, which is within the Fed's target rate of 2% inflation. And that's what they're shooting for. They want to get that inflation rate back under 2%. We're there, but the Fed is going to really hammer the point home that they're not going to let that inflation rate go any higher, which is what we want. Is
yeah,
as mortgage people, we do not want inflation. We would like the inflation rate to be as close to zero as possible, because that inflation eats away at the profits of people who invest in mortgage-backed securities, and it eats away at savings for investors. If you have money and you're saving it in your savings account or in CDs, a high inflation rate eats away at that profitability. So the Fed really needs to focus on that. They have a dual mandate where the Federal Reserve is supposed to, one, control inflation, but also they're supposed to keep us at or near full employment. Right now, they really have a single mandate, and that is to shrink inflation as fast as they can. One of their tools for doing that, in addition to raising interest rates, is to try and create a recession in the labor market. They would really like the unemployment rate to go up, and they would like to have more people unemployed right now, because when you're unemployed, you can't buy as much stuff, which slows the economy further. So it's all part of their destroy demand mantra that they're doing right now. So they would like to have more unemployment. It's going to be very difficult for them to get there, just simply because of the demographics in our world right now. A lot of the baby boomers either have or are very close to retiring. A lot of people stepped out of the workforce earlier due to COVID. They just ended up taking early retirement and moving on. We don't have enough skilled workers in the later generations to immediately assume those roles. So it's we have a lot of vacancies in high up sort of positions, and we're having a hard time getting qualified people into those positions. So until the demographics change a little bit, the employment situation I don't see getting much different.
Chad, let me ask you a question. One of the first questions I get from buyers, even sellers, are the rates ever going to go down? When will they go down? Will we ever see rates at historic lows at 2 and 3% like we were seeing just last year and a couple of years ago?
Fair
Can you
question.
kind of give us some insight on that?
Yeah, hopefully we never see rates of the rates we had before, because that was
Yeah.
just unsustainable, and that's what got us here. Joke sometimes that the Federal Reserve is they're like an arsonist who started a fire, and now they're trying to
Yeah.
tap it down with a blanket. So they pushed the rates too low too fast, and now we're suffering from that. So I've been saying for about a year, since like last April-ish, that November would be the point where you would see rates start to fall. And that's because all of inflation, the inflation that we had last year was basically all baked in by November. So What that essentially means is we're going to start seeing rates fall, and that is exactly what happened. Starting in November, rates were really at about their high. Since then, they've come off of it a ton. The average right now is about 6.1%. Some are lower, some are higher, but that's a pretty decent average. They were up as high as 7.75 at one
Right.
point. So they've come down a lot, and because of that, a lot of people have come back into the market. The other thing that we've seen now is that sellers are they're more likely to list and sell their house if they're sitting there at a 3% interest rate. As the rates fall, the sellers are getting more comfortable with selling their house and buying a new house in the 5 or low 6 range versus when the rates were at 7 or 8% or seven
Right.
percent. They just weren't comfortable listing and selling their house then. So what that means to us is that there's more inventory coming on as the rates
Mhm.
fall.
Mhm.
So the Fed would like to increase inventory, and they did that by bumping rates. But now we're on the other side of that, and now they actually have to let rates come down in order to increase inventory, which is counterintuitive, but that's what they
Right.
have.
And one thing that Bernadette and Chad, both of you are seeing is more first-time buyers getting into the market because some of that trepidation, the rates aren't at 7+%. So Bernadette, can you talk about what you're seeing on that side? And then Chad, can you talk about if I'm a first-time home buyer, what do I need to come to the table with so I'm prepared? So Bernadette, let me start with you on that question.
Okay, yeah, so it is still, right now, I do believe, and Chad may attest to this, but I do believe it is a first-time home buyer market right now. With that being said, with this increase in activity, first-time home buyers need to be educated on bringing their best game, I guess. In other words, not have expectations that a seller is going to be able to pay closing costs, that a seller is going to be able or willing to pay closing costs, or a seller is going to be able or willing to accept they wouldn't have a sale of home contingency if they're a first-time home buyer, but other contingencies, concessions. So I think, right away, starting off, first-time home buyers, there are options out there. Don't give up, right? Don't give up. We are in a better position to see those things than we were with the activity last year and even the year before so far, but it remains to be seen. We are just in the beginning of this change that has been in position for the last few months. So we want to make sure that buyers are aware they still need to bring their best game, and to stay positive and not give up. Homeownership is very important, and I only think that if they wait, it's going to be more difficult as prices are continuing. They're not increasing maybe as crazy as they were, but our prices of homes are increasing, and we don't want them to get out of the market. They won't have, where they won't have a chance. So I'm sorry that wasn't as smooth. I wasn't completely ready with my sentences, I guess. But Chad can add to this, and yeah.
Chad, what's your thoughts on first-time home buyers? Because you said you're seeing a little bit of an uptick from your side.
Yeah, I think 3 weeks ago, if you would have asked me, just about every seller was paying closing costs.
Right.
3 weeks later now, I mean, this is how fast it's turned. We're in multiple offers on every offer we're putting in. So
Right.
it's getting more difficult to get the sellers to pay. And as we get into this market coming in, it usually seems like in Spokane, at least, it's Super Bowl weekend that the market really starts to take off. And we're coming up on that here in a week or so. And so I think if I'm a first time home buyer, I try and get in as fast as possible while you've still got some houses that have been sitting for a minute. Maybe you can get some sellers to contribute, things like that. But it's not a foregone conclusion like it was 3 weeks ago, where you could ask the seller to pay 3% of your closing costs and they would just do it. It's gotten more difficult to get there now. As for what a first time home buyer needs to come to the table with, um, there are all kinds of programs out there, some that require zero down, some that require 3% down, some that do 3.5% down. Really the zero down option is good for some buyers. The 3% down option is good for every first time home buyer.
Mhm.
So I really compare that with the client. You know, if you have an option of 0 or 3%, we look at both and we decide which one is best for them. But there are some advantages of both for sure. And but you can get into a house with no money. It does still require the seller to pay your closing costs. But if you have a say 3% in your savings account, we could potentially have you come in with no money for the down payment, but then we use that 3% for your closing costs. So we do have some options like that. And certainly Bernadette is never afraid to ask the seller for, concessions and things like that and negotiate on your behalf. It just comes down to
Absolutely.
the particular property and whether or not there are other offers and things like that. It's a great time to buy. I do anticipate rates. I've been saying this, like I say, for over a year.
Yeah.
I think rates will be under 5% by May. So that is a really, really good thing. And I think we're going to be back in that market. As for where they're heading, I don't see them getting below 4 again. But who knows? I mean, if the economy really goes into a deep recession, which I don't think it will, but if it does, then that would be a case where the rates would maybe go down below 4. But I don't see that happening. We're in such a situation right now with labor shortages and things like that, where I don't see the economy really tanking, and housing can't tank because there's not enough houses for people to buy. So that will be supportive of prices going forward. There's just not much of a reason to believe that we're heading
Yeah.
into a really bad recession.
Well, I was going to wrap it
I
up,
do.
but I want. Oh, go
Well,
ahead. Go
one
ahead.
thing I
Bernadette.
do want to piggyback on something that Chad said before I forget. Chad talked about interest rates, by May lowering down to the 5% possibly. He has been very accurate in all predictions, pretty much always. I mean, Chad and I work closely together, and I rely on him as an economist of sorts as well. But when I heard him say that about the interest rates going down to the 5%, I believe that to be true as well. But I don't want a first-time home buyer or another buyer to hear that and think, oh, okay, then I'm going to wait till May until they come down to 5 or below 5, because what happens when those rates come down, then we see prices go up, right? So it's kind of saying, what I advise is I do believe that now is a time. I'm a realtor. People would think that that's just, my business, and I want to see that happening, especially among my sphere and my clients, but it's not the real reason. I think it is a very good time to buy right now, because you may get in there on a little bit higher of a price point, but prices on houses haven't gone up as much as we could foreseeably see them. And down the road, if you get in now, down the road, in a couple of years, when you've got a little bit of equity built up, you can shop those interest rates and lower your interest rate by doing a refi. So I believe. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
I wanted to say real quick with to tack on to what Bernadette's saying is most every lender believes rates are going to fall. So most of us, including myself here at Q Home Loans, have put in a program in place that if you buy now while the prices are still low, as long as if you buy now while the prices are still low and then rates fall, we will refinance you with 0 lender fees. For really, I'm kind of extending it for a long time, year or two, whatever it takes, because we know that rates are going to be lower. And if you're buying now, we want to allow you to capture that low price and still be able to get a payment that suits your budget even better, 6 months from now or 8 months from now.
Yeah,
and
that's a great opportunity.
For purposes of timing, since the market is changing as fast as we're talking about, I want to tell everybody that the day that we're recording this is Sunday, January 29th, because we may not get this podcast out for a few days because of editing and what have you. So today is Sunday, January 29th. I know Super Bowl is approaching us because my neighbors across the street are watching one of the playoff games, I'm sure. Because they are just, I'm surprised you can't hear their
Eagles in San
celebrating.
Francisco. Yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
pretty good game. So far, I
Yeah.
think the Eagles are dominating, but
Yeah. So, and I'm not going to say who I'm rooting for, but anyway,
we're
so
everyone's fan, right?
yeah. So Chad, I want to thank you for all of that. Mike, I want to thank you for all of that. I'm going to hand it back to you,
Absolutely.
Mike.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Do you guys want to get anything that I may have missed that you want to get out there before we go?
I would like to just remind everybody that I have a stellar team. While I have 18 years in the business, all my agents are very seasoned and they're on their own right. And I bring, oh gosh, more than a half a century of experience to the table, combined with my experience and my agents, including you, Mike Gonzalez.
There you go.
So yes, so I would like to invite all new home buyers or home buyers period and sellers to reach out to us. Yeah. And so I might as well take this time to give my contact information.
Absolutely. Go ahead, guys.
And if they don't want to work with me because I'm in Hawaii at this time and they want to work with one of my stellar senior agents, they can reach out to me and I will set them up. So my phone number is 509-868-9181. And it's pretty much implanted in my hip. If you get my voicemail, very often it's because the iPhone is telling me that I'm getting a spam call, but I'm immediately attentive to either the text message that I follow up with or the voicemail. So please reach out to me at 509-868-9181.
Awesome. Chad, give us your contact info, please.
Yeah, my cell phone, you can reach out to me anytime. Like Bernadette, I answer my phone 24/7. You can reach me on my cell phone at 509-216-5555. And you can also get me on my website, which is super simple. It's just my name. It's www.chadthomas.com.
Awesome. And you guys can find me in the Tri-Cities, 509-850-4748, Mike at SpokanePillar.com. Well, another fun podcast with you guys. Really enjoyed it. So hey, we've got to really crank things up in 2023. What do you think?
That's right. I'm on board. Yep.
All right. Well, we'll definitely get it more consistent, and because these are really so informative and a lot of fun. So on behalf of Bernadette Pillar and Chad Thomas, I'm Mike Gonzalez saying thanks for watching the Bernadette Pillar podcast. We'll see you next time.
Aloha, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.